guys, my name's Denise. I'm going to make a little tutorial about how I make my little masks here. They're very easy to make. I am not a seamstress in any way, shape, or form, but I taught myself how to use the sewing machine, and I feel like I have a kind of easy way to do it. It might not be professional or perfect, but it's been working, and I'm just going to give you a little tutorial. So now we're ready to sew. We have the one fabric, cute little Christmas tree with the interfacing on it. And then we have another fabric, and it can be the same fabric. It doesn't have to be different fabric. I just like to use the different fabric just because it makes it interesting for me as I'm sewing. So we're gonna put the bottom piece with the printed side up, and the top piece that has the interfacing, we're gonna put printed side down on top of that piece, because we're gonna sew it inside out and flip it around, okay? So that's where you start. Now, I tried to find elastic, but so many people are making these that it was really hard for me to find elastic. So I ended up going to the Dollar Tree and getting these kind of headbands. You can get 7 of them for $1. It's a pretty good deal. And I take the headbands and I just cut them in half, and I just make a nice long string. So the ones that I make actually go around your head and behind your head, so that it's not putting too much stress on your ears. So I'm gonna make mine the way that I found was easiest. And the way I do it is when I'm sewing the outside of it, I actually do one continuous stitch, including getting the elastic in there. I go around the whole thing one time, and I go back and forth over the elastic corners in a diagonal to kind of make a strong bond there, and then flip the whole thing inside out. Now, this might not be the best way to do it, but I found it's what works for me. So you're gonna see me sew this, and you're gonna see me putting the elastics in the corner, and I'll try to talk through it as I'm doing it. But you'll see I'm just doing it in one continuous stitch, and I will try to show the sewing machine and kind of my fingers and what I'm doing at that time. I do a lot of stopping, making sure the needle's down, lifting up the foot, turning the fabric, but getting it done in one continuous stitch has made my life it's been so much easier, okay? So I'm gonna show you how I do that now. So I'm starting in a corner on a diagonal, and I go ahead and I just forward, backward, forward again. And usually I don't stop, but you probably want to stop here. Lift your foot, turn your fabric so that it's going in a straight line now. I just go straight down this seam, stopping like about, I don't know, maybe ½ an inch from the end. Okay, I'm stopping there. I make sure my needle is down inside the fabric. Lift it up, turn it on an angle, 45 degrees. I get in here and I grab my elastic from this long side. Now this is gonna be the top of the mask. The thick ones I use on the top. And I just have that elastic coming out the corner. Okay, right here in the corner. And now I'm on an angle, I don't know if you can see, but I'm on a 45-degree angle, and now I'm just gonna go forward and back and forward again, going 3 times over this elastic just to really make sure that it is secure. Okay, you see I have not taken the fabric out yet. I make sure that the needle is down so I can lift up my foot and turn my fabric. I've turned it again so it's, you know, at a 90-degree angle here, and I'm going to go straight down this side until I get to about halfway. Okay, stop again at about like, oh, I don't know, maybe an inch or so. I have my needle down, I lift my foot, I turn it on a 45-degree angle kind of. And then I take a smaller, so here I have smaller headbands that I'm using for the bottom ones just because they stretch a little more and you can adjust that. So I'm putting this smaller one in here in the corner. It's just going to come out of the corner here on an angle. Okay, put my foot back down. I'm on an angle now. Again, I'm going to go forward, back, and forward again. Okay, stopping, making sure that foot, that needle is down in the fabric so you can lift your foot and turn it. And again, I'm going to go straight down this seam until I'm about an inch away from the end. Okay, make sure that needle's down in there. Lift your foot, turn it on an angle. Get in here and find the other end of that little cord. Okay, have the headband peeking out. Oh, I don't know if you can see it really, but that headband's kind of peeking out of the corner right here. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down, go over it, forward, back, forward. And stop, make sure the needle is in there, lift your foot. Okay, now for this last one, this is important. I'm going to put the foot down. You're going to sew down to about 1/3 of the way. Then you're going to lift your foot and pull the fabric through for about 1/3, and then you're going to put the foot back down and complete sewing. That's because we need to leave a little hole here so that we can turn the whole thing inside out. Okay, so I'm going to sew, stop, make sure the needle is up, lift the foot, you're going to pull it through, put the foot back down, and just finish up. That's it. Okay. Now you could see that we have sewn around the entire rectangle, and we have our elastics that are kind of peeking out of each little corner here. And I only have one place where all of my threads have collected. So I'm going to go ahead and snip those off. And I'm also going to go around and cut this little extra elastic that's coming out of each corner, just because it makes, that one's good, makes it easier to sew later on. Don't cut too close to where you sew because you don't want to pull it out of there. Okay, now, remember I told you we had that little opening? Mine is always, not that big, but I feel like you don't have to have a huge opening to pull it through. And remember, the paper is still on our interfacing, so right now we're going to go ahead and pull the paper off of that interfacing. And you could see how it's like nice and glossy. It's because that's where it has adhered. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this through. Super easy, just like putting a pillow in a pillowcase. Pull, you can tug on these little elastics here, and there you go. Now you have your mask, and you just have to do the finishing touches. Okay, so here we are back at the ironing board. So we just flipped our mask inside out, and as you recall, you have a little bit of an opening here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to iron this down, make a nice little crease so that we can go back over it with the sewing machine and close that up. The other thing that we're going to do is, with that opening, you're going to take half of a pipe cleaner, and you're going to slide the pipe cleaner in there and put it up at the top seam. Now remember, I'm using 2 different thicknesses of elastic band. So the thicker band is the one that's going on the top of the head, and the thinner band is going behind the neck. So it's more comfortable. So make sure when you're putting the pipe cleaner in that you're putting the pipe cleaner on the top part of the mask. You'll know it's the top because it has the thicker band. Okay, so the pipe cleaner is in there. And we're doing three things. We're getting the pipe cleaner in there. We are ironing the seam over here so that it makes it easier for us to sew it down. And we are also bonding that interfacing in the middle, okay? So once I apply the heat to this, it's gonna bond it to the other fabric that didn't have interfacing, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. So go ahead and do that. Make sure these ends are tucked in nice and tight. Do that part first. Make sure your pipe cleaner is in here before you start to iron because you're gonna fuse these fabrics together. And it's nice to just give the whole thing a good press. Not only to connect the interfacing, but also just to give yourself a good surface to work with moving forward. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the sewing machine, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew along this edge to keep the pipe cleaner in the top, and I'm gonna do one continuous stitch again. I'm gonna start from here. I'm gonna sew across here, keeping the pipe cleaner in place. I'm gonna cut the corner here, and then I'm gonna sew down the edge, making sure I'm closing up that hole that we had there. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll be back over here at the ironing. Okay, I'm back. So what I have done is I have sewn a line across the top. You could see this is where our pipe cleaner is, so it can bend and keep its form there. And then I just kept it going all the way across to this side, and I closed up that opening that was there. So now we're ready to put the pleats in it, and I'm gonna sew the pleats and we'll be done. So let me show you how I do the pleats. Okay, so remember this thick one is the top here. So I'm starting there. Now, like I said, I'm not a seamstress. I don't like wasting my time with measurements and all that. So just eyeball everything, okay? So I start by making a fold, going down. I'd say it's maybe an inch. Well, a big inch. Go ahead and iron that pleat. I will say I used to skip the ironing part, but the ironing really makes it a lot easier to zip through on the machine. I don't use pins or anything, I just hold it. All right, so there's your first little mark that you have there. Okay, so you could see that it's folded. All right, then I just fold it down about half of the distance of the first one. Iron that real quick just to give it a marking. Okay, now I'm gonna make the second, so you can see here, that's a 1. Okay, then I go ahead and fold it down and back so that in the back, the top of this fold comes to the end of the first fold. Okay, and then I go ahead and iron that. Oops, sorry, get you seasick. Then I do that one more time. Okay. The professionals say 3 folds is the best way to go, so I go with what they say. Okay, nice good pressing there. All right, now, as you can see, you could see that it has 3 folds. There's the first one, and the second one, and the third one, and it should look like this when you've got all those folds ironed in there. Now all I'm gonna do is go back to the sewing machine, and I am gonna sew from the top to the bottom, back up to the top. So it's got 2 stitches going through. Then I'm gonna go over here, top to the bottom, back up to the top, but I'll show you as I'm doing it. Okay, so here we are back at the sewing machine. Remember, I have those pleats in there that we just ironed in, and the interfacing really helps to hold those too. It makes it kind of stiff, which is great. So when I am sewing it, I get about as close to the edge as I can. Let me scooch this over. I don't know if that's really better, but I get as close to the edge of it as I can just so that it's making a nice tight fold. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew down, and then I'm going to use my reverse, and I'm going to go back up, and it's going to give it a nice thick strong hold. Okay, so here we go. Oh, and I also find that it's best that the pleats are facing down this way so that as you're passing it through the sewing machine, it doesn't catch. And by the time you come back up, it's already been sewn down once, so it kind of holds it in place. All right, so here we go. Reverse. And there you go. One side, and then in order to make sure that the pleats are going down, like I said before, I just put the whole mask over inside here. I line it up, and again, make sure all your pleats are in place. Again, I go down and reverse, and that's it. Now, just cut off all the little strings that are hanging off, close as you can. Flip it over, get both sides. Ooh. Okay. And there you go. There's your little mask. It's got the little pipe cleaner at the top. It can open up. And like I said, I'm not a professional seamstress. I'm a preschool teacher, but I found that this was the easiest way to make them, and I figure any way that I can help, even if these aren't being used by the medical professionals, which I don't think they should be, at least they're you know, being used in the hospitals for people who are coming in who might be sick, and it helps to keep their germs mostly with them. So I hope this has been easy tutorial for you. I hope that you find it easy to make these, and I hope that if you're able, you can help others by making them. And I appreciate you watching. Thanks.